Have you ever wondered why it feels so exhausting to keep comparing yourself to others? Why your energy fades the moment you measure your life against someone else's highlight reel? Deep down, you already know why. Every time you look outward instead of inward, you hand your power away. You give permission for the world to decide how you should feel, how much you're worth, and whether or not you're enough. That constant noise, the opinions, the expectations, the silent pressure to keep up, it pulls you further from who you really are. You weren't born to live as a reflection of other people's standards. You were born to build your own. Yet somewhere along the way, you started believing that validation meant success. You started chasing approval, likes, recognition. And slowly, without noticing, you began losing the quiet connection with yourself, that calm inner voice that once told you what you truly wanted. It's not your fault. Society rewards noise. It celebrates the loudest, the strongest. But silence is where power grows. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you shift from reaction to creation. You stop trying to prove and start improving. You begin to feel peace where once there was pressure. The world may not notice this transformation right away, but that's the beauty of it. You're not doing it for them anymore. You're doing it for you. Growth doesn't need applause. It needs consistency. It needs quiet effort repeated every single day, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. Think about this. A seed doesn't make noise when it breaks open underground. It doesn't announce its growth. Yet one day, it becomes a tree strong enough to weather storms. That's the power of silence. That's the reward of focus. You may not see results immediately, but every small act of discipline, every decision to choose self over comparison is a seed planted in your future. And one day, that quiet work will speak for you louder than any words ever could. Staying silent isn't weakness, it's mastery. It means you no longer need validation to move forward. It means you understand that your journey is sacred, and not everyone deserves front row access to it. The world will try to distract you. People will project their fears, their doubts, their noise onto you. But you must remember, noise is temporary, direction is permanent. When you know where you're going, you don't stop to explain your path to everyone passing by. You just keep walking. And yes, it will feel lonely at times. But that loneliness is not emptiness, it's clarity. It's the space where strength is built. Because the truth is, no one can walk your path for you. No one can fight your battles, face your fears, or shape your destiny but you. This is your journey. Your silence is your shield. Your focus is your weapon. So stay with me until the end of this video. Because what comes next will help you break free from the need for validation and replace it with unstoppable self-trust. By the time we're done, you'll see how silence, discipline, and focus can rebuild your confidence, sharpen your vision, and remind you of who you were always meant to be. The reason silence feels uncomfortable at first is because it exposes the truth. When you stop looking outward for distraction, you start hearing the voice within, the one that's been buried under years of comparison, fear, and noise. It whispers things you've tried to ignore. The dreams you've delayed, the habits you've avoided, the potential you've doubted. Silence holds up a mirror, and not everyone likes what they see. But that mirror is your greatest teacher. It shows you exactly where your energy has been leaking and where your focus needs to return. Most people run from that moment. They fill the quiet with chatter, entertainment, endless scrolling. Because silence demands honesty. It asks questions that force you to face yourself. What am I doing with my time? Who am I becoming? What do I really want? Those questions can feel heavy, but they are the foundation of growth. They strip away illusion. They make you real again. When you face them without fear, you stop living on autopilot. You take control. You begin to lead your life instead of being led by it. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean isolation. It means alignment. It's not about cutting the world out. It's about filtering it. You learn to protect your attention the same way you protect your time, your peace, your energy. Because whatever you focus on expands. If you spend your days watching others succeed, you will live in their shadow. But if you channel that same attention into your craft, your mind, your growth, your future becomes the light others look toward. That's the shift from comparison to creation. The moment you redirect your focus, you begin to feel power returning. You notice how much mental space you wasted on things that never really mattered. You see how often you let opinions slow you down. But now, in the quiet, clarity begins to form. You start asking different questions. How can I improve? What can I learn? What can I build? These are questions of creators, not critics. And the moment you start asking them, your entire energy changes. You no longer react to life, you design. There's a reason some of the most disciplined, confident people in the world live quietly. It's not because they lack ambition. It's because they've learned to channel it inward. Every day they make small, invisible choices to stay consistent, to stay grounded, to stay focused. They don't need to announce their progress because their progress will announce them. Their silence is not emptiness, it's precision. It's the space where ideas take shape, skills are built, and strength is refined. You can have that same power. But you must be willing to sit with yourself long enough to hear your own direction. You must be willing to go unnoticed while you grow. Because greatness doesn't bloom in noise, it blooms in discipline. Every hour you spend working on yourself while others are distracted builds an invisible foundation that no one can take from you. That's what real confidence is. Knowing you're becoming better even when no one sees it. The truth is, you don't need to chase. When you start focusing on yourself, something incredible happens. You begin to notice how much noise you used to tolerate. The opinions, the gossip, the constant comparisons, they start to sound hollow. You realize most people are too distracted trying to be seen to ever truly see themselves. And for the first time, you stop craving that external noise. You start craving peace. You start valuing your energy more than attention. That's the first sign that you're evolving. You no longer seek validation. You seek growth. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It begins in the moments when you choose to stay silent instead of defending yourself. When you choose to keep building instead of explaining your vision to people who don't understand it. Silence at that point becomes strength. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your dreams. You don't have to justify your pace, your path, or your purpose. You just have to keep moving quietly, consistently, intentionally. There's a deep kind of confidence that grows in people who trust their process. They stop waiting for approval because they've learned that every step taken in silence still moves them forward. That's the power of self-focus. It removes the dependency on external recognition. You begin to find validation within your own effort, within your own progress, within your own discipline. And once you experience that, you can't go back. You can't unsee how powerful it feels to rely on yourself. It's why achieving a small goal feels more satisfying than receiving a compliment. Deep inside, your brain is wired to respond to growth. But when your focus is scattered, when you're constantly looking at others, your mind gets confused. It doesn't know what to chase, so it starts chasing everything. That's how burnout begins, not from hard work, but from misdirected work. The cure isn't more effort, it's better focus. When you stop chasing noise and begin chasing purpose, you move differently. You stop rushing. You stop proving. You stop performing for an audience that was never watching as closely as you thought. Instead, you start building silently for the version of you that's still becoming. Every day becomes an opportunity, not to impress, but to evolve. You wake up no longer to compete with others, but to compete with who you were yesterday. And that quiet competition, that internal race, is where real power lives. It takes courage to choose this path, to walk away from the crowd and walk towards yourself. But once you do, you'll start noticing things others miss. You'll notice how peace feels better than attention, how solitude feels richer than approval, how inner strength feels deeper than applause. You'll begin to understand that success built in silence doesn't need an audience. It just needs faith. So when the world gets loud, stay grounded. When people doubt you, stay focused. When progress feels slow, stay consistent. Because silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. It's proof that you've stopped reacting and started creating. And the longer you stay committed to this focus, the more unstoppable you become. Not because the world finally noticed you, but because you finally noticed yourself. You don't need to prove your worth. You just need to become so focused, so grounded, that everything unnecessary fades into the background. That's when peace arrives. That's when life starts to shift. Not because the world changed, but because you finally decided to master the only thing you can truly control, yourself. The moment you stop comparing and start focusing, you begin to feel an unfamiliar kind of freedom. It's quiet but powerful. It's the peace that comes from knowing you no longer need to prove anything. You're no longer running a race that was never yours to begin with. For the first time, your energy belongs entirely to you, and when your energy belongs to you, it becomes unstoppable. You start realizing how much power you lost by trying to please others. You see how many dreams you delayed because you were afraid of being misunderstood. But when you finally choose yourself, everything changes. You stop asking for permission to grow. You simply grow. This is where real transformation begins. Not in noise, but in awareness. The awareness that your focus determines your future. That every time you redirect your energy from comparison to creation, you shift your entire reality. It's a small decision repeated 1,000 times. To build instead of complain, to learn instead of judge, to act instead of talk. This is how people rise. Not through lack or talent, but through consistent focus on becoming a little better each day. It's not glamorous, it's not loud. It's quiet work, the kind that no one sees, but that's what makes it powerful. Because the work you do in silence strengthens the parts of you that can't be faked. Discipline, patience, self-belief, these are the roots of real success. And while others are busy showcasing progress, you're busy creating it. You don't need the world to clap for you anymore. Your growth becomes its own reward. Every time you choose silence over validation, you train your mind to rely on itself. You build emotional independence. That rare ability to stay steady whether you're praised or ignored, that's what makes you unshakable. You start realizing that attention fades, but self-respect stays. You understand that trends change, but personal mastery endures. That's why people who focus inward always outlast those chasing outward approval. Because they're building something real, something grounded in effort, not ego. The world will keep testing you. It will tempt you to react, to defend, to prove your worth through noise. But you've outgrown that. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. You've learned that silence is a statement, one that says, I'm busy becoming. Let others talk. Let them guess. You stay focused. You stay moving. You let your results become your voice. That's the language the world respects. Not noise, but progress. And the beauty of this path is that every step builds momentum. Every quiet victory strengthens your confidence. Every hour spent improving instead of explaining deepens your belief in yourself. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone trying to catch up, but as someone setting the pace. You move with purpose, you act with clarity, and in that stillness you find your true rhythm. This is the moment you stop waiting for the right time. You realize the right time is whenever you decide to focus. Life doesn't reward those who shout the loudest, it rewards those who move the smartest. Every bit of focus you invest in yourself compounds. Every day of silence adds up. And one day, that quiet work will echo louder than anything you could ever say. There comes a point when your silence no longer feels like restraint. It feels like control. You realize you don't need to respond to every comment, react to every situation, or explain every move. That's when focus turns into power. Because the moment you stop wasting energy on things that don't move you forward, all that energy starts building something that does. You become more grounded, more deliberate, more precise. You begin to understand that mastery is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters, without noise. When you detach from the need to be seen, you start to see everything clearly. You notice patterns, how easily people are distracted, how quickly they chase attention, how much time is lost on things that don't matter. And instead of joining the chaos, you choose stillness. You choose peace over performance. That decision might isolate you, but it will also elevate you. Because clarity thrives in silence, you start seeing where your true priorities lie, what deserves your energy and what doesn't. Psychologists call it selective attention, the ability to filter out noise and focus only on what's essential. It's one of the most powerful mental skills you can develop. It's the foundation of high performance, emotional stability, and inner peace. When your attention is disciplined, your results multiply. You begin to realize that every thought, every minute, every ounce of focus you give to distraction steals from your purpose. But every ounce of focus you give to yourself builds something lasting. Confidence, skill, identity. The quietest people often carry the loudest impact because their energy is contained, not scattered. They've learned the power of restraint, the strength in not reacting, the wisdom in not oversharing, the peace in not needing to be understood. This kind of strength doesn't come from ego. It comes from awareness. It's the confidence of knowing who you are without having to announce it. The world will always test this awareness, trying to pull you back into the noise. But every time you stay still, every time you remain focused, you prove to yourself that you've grown beyond the chaos. Silence becomes your edge. It becomes your strategy. While others are chasing recognition, you're mastering execution. While others are busy being seen, you're busy becoming capable. And capability will always outlast visibility. Because once you build yourself into someone who can handle anything, you'll never again depend on anyone's opinion. You'll be free from the need to prove, free from the fear of judgment, free from the illusion that validation equals worth. You start to realize that the people who seem far ahead aren't necessarily smarter or luckier, they're just more focused. They've learned to direct all their effort into one direction, one mission, one purpose. And that's something you can do right now. You don't need perfect timing, special connections, or external permission. You just need focus. Steady, quiet, unshakable focus. The kind that doesn't waver when results take time. The kind that trusts that every unseen step is leading somewhere significant. And when you live this way, something shifts inside you. You stop rushing. You stop doubting. You stop needing the world to understand your silence. Because your silence is no longer empty, it's full of intention, full of direction, full of purpose. You are no longer just existing. You are building, quietly, consistently, powerfully. And when the time comes, your results will speak the language the world cannot ignore. When your focus becomes unbreakable, your entire world starts to realign. You begin to see how much of life is shaped by attention. What you feed grows and what you ignore fades. Most people never master this truth. They scatter their focus on everything and wonder why nothing changes. Oh, but when you direct your mind toward your own growth, everything changes. You stop trying to control others and you start mastering yourself. You begin to realize that your inner world shapes your outer results. The calm you build inside begins to show in the way you walk, speak, and act. The greatest transformation doesn't happen in public. It happens in silence when no one is watching, when it's just you versus the voice in your head. That voice will question you. It will tell you to quit. It will whisper that you're not moving fast enough, not good enough, not ready enough. But that voice is not your truth. It's your old conditioning trying to survive. You silence it not by arguing, but by acting. Every disciplined action, every small victory, every silent decision to keep going weakens that voice. You begin to build a new one that speaks from strength, not fear. As your inner voice changes, your reality follows. You stop needing to shout to be heard. Your presence begins to speak for you. There's something magnetic about a person who moves with quiet certainty, someone who doesn't compete for attention because they've already claimed their peace. People feel that energy, even if they can't explain it. It's the power that comes from alignment. When your thoughts, actions, and purpose all move in the same direction, that's what real confidence is. Not noise, not arrogance, just clarity. Psychologically, this kind of transformation is powerful because your brain learns through repetition. Each time you focus inward instead of outward, you strengthen neural pathways that support discipline, self-trust, and calm. You literally rewire your mind for peace. Over time, what once felt difficult, staying silent, ignoring distractions, letting go of validation, becomes natural. You start craving the quiet because that's where you feel most alive. You no longer fear thoughts because you've made peace with them. And that peace becomes your foundation. Every person who's achieved greatness has walked through the stage of silence, of solitude, of focus so deep it borders on obsession. It's not about perfection. It's about direction. It's about waking up every day and choosing yourself over noise, choosing progress over approval, choosing inner strength over outward attention. And when you do this long enough, something extraordinary happens. You begin to trust the process completely. You stop doubting whether the effort is worth it. You know it is because you can feel yourself changing. And that's the quiet victory few ever talk about. The shift from chasing success to becoming success. When your habits, your mindset, and your energy align with who you want to be, you no longer need to force results. They start finding you. The world begins to reflect the work you've been doing within. You move differently. You think differently. You become someone who doesn't just survive distractions. You transcend them. And in that stillness, you discover something powerful. You never needed to outshine anyone. You just needed to stop dimming yourself. That the moment you stop dimming yourself, life starts to open in ways you never expected. The same silence that once felt lonely begins to feel sacred. You begin to crave it because it's no longer emptiness, it's space. Space to think, space to breathe, space to build. You realize how much noise had been blocking your clarity, how much energy had been wasted on people and situations that were never meant to understand your journey. Now, that energy is yours again. You're no longer giving it away. You're investing it in yourself, your purpose, your evolution. This kind of focus creates momentum that's almost unstoppable. Because when your attention is no longer divided, your actions become powerful. You stop overthinking every step because you finally trust your direction. And that trust becomes your greatest strength. You no longer need proof that it's working. The feeling inside you is enough. You can sense the shift. You can feel the alignment. You can see how much lighter life becomes when you stop trying to carry everyone else's opinions on your back. The truth is, people will always have something to say. They'll question your silence. They'll misunderstand your peace. They'll assume your quiet means weakness because they can't comprehend strength that doesn't demand to be seen. But you're not here to convince them, you're here to grow. You're here to build something that doesn't crumble under judgment. You're here to rise quietly until your results make noise that no opinion can silence. That's what true focus does. It turns distraction into fuel and criticism into clarity. Psychologically, this shift from external to internal validation rewires your entire emotional system. You start responding instead of reacting. You start choosing instead of chasing. You start realizing that peace isn't something you find, it's something you build one decision at a time. You understand that silence is not withdrawal, it's preparation. Every moment spent in quiet focus strengthens the mental muscle that keeps you steady when life gets loud. This is why calm people are often the most powerful. They've trained themselves to stay centered no matter what chaos surrounds them. You begin to notice that your emotions no longer control you the way they used to. Frustration turns into focus. Doubt turns into discipline. Fear turns into fuel. Because every emotion, no matter how heavy, is energy. And when you learn to channel that energy inward instead of wasting it outward, you become unstoppable. You stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. You realize that success isn't about being louder, it's about being laser-focused. And this is where the magic happens. When your silence becomes strategy, when your stillness becomes strength. The same quiet that once hid your uncertainty now hides your power. You no longer need to announce what you're building, you're too busy building it. You no longer seek to be understood. You've learned that understanding yourself is enough. That's what true freedom feels like. When you can stand alone without feeling lost. When your peace no longer depends on anyone's presence or approval. So you keep going, you keep focusing. Because the longer you stay on this path, the more you realize that the world doesn't reward the loudest. It rewards the most consistent. You don't need to scream your worth, you just need to embody it. You just need to stay silent, stay focused, and let your evolution speak in the only language that matters. Results. There's a calm that comes when you stop explaining yourself. You no longer feel the need to be understood because you finally understand yourself. The silence that once felt like isolation now feels like alignment. You've stopped chasing recognition and started embracing purpose. And in that shift, you begin to see life differently. You realize that real growth doesn't happen in front of people. It happens in the moments when no one is watching, when you're alone, making decisions that no one applauds but that shape everything about who you're becoming. This is the hidden truth behind focus. It's not about working harder, it's about working truer. It's about being honest with yourself, brutally honest, about where your energy goes, about what actually deserves your attention. Because not everything that demands your focus deserves it. Some things exist only to distract you, to drain you, to keep you small. When you start recognizing that, your silence turns into strength. You stop reacting to every pull and start directing your own energy like a laser, precise, powerful, and purposeful. The psychology behind this is simple but profound. Your mind thrives on direction. When it doesn't have a clear target, it creates one out of noise, other people's lives, opinions, and achievements. But the moment you give it a real purpose, it begins to filter everything else out. You stop absorbing the chaos around you. You stop comparing. You start creating. You begin to experience the rare peace that comes from full engagement with your own path. Every thought, every decision, every action begins to feel intentional. And that intention changes everything. You wake up with clarity instead of confusion. You move with confidence instead of doubt. You no longer need to control outcomes because you trust your process. You trust that every moment of focus compounds, that each quiet effort adds up to something unstoppable. You stop craving overnight success because you understand how powerful long-term consistency really is. You become patient, and that patience becomes your superpower. While others rush for results, you build foundations that last. Your silence becomes sacred. You don't share every plan, every move, every goal. You protect them, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. You understand that some things grow best in the dark. The world doesn't need to see your process. It will see your progress when the time is right. And when that moment comes, it won't be because you sought attention. It will be because your work demanded it. That's the difference between those who make noise and those who make impact. You've learned to channel your emotions instead of escaping them. You've learned that doubt isn't a signal to stop. It's a test of your focus. You've learned that staying silent doesn't mean doing nothing. It means working in peace. Every setback becomes data. Every delay becomes development. Every moment alone becomes a moment of power. This is what self-mastery feels like. Not the absence of struggle, but the ability to move through it without losing direction. And when you reach this level of calm strength, life begins to reflect it back to you. Opportunities find you. The right people notice you. The right moments align with your path. Not because you shouted louder, but because your energy became undeniable. That's the reward of focus. Not noise, not fame, not validation, but freedom. The freedom to live on your own terms, to move with peace, and to know, deeply, quietly, unshakably, that you are becoming everything you are meant to.